Hi everyone, it's Lou Collins. Thank you for joining me. Today I'd like to show you exactly how, step by step, to create a beautiful kinetic pop-up bouquet of flowers within a card. This is going to be absolutely perfect for Mother's Day coming up in the UK at the moment, but of course for any time of the year that you want to send a bunch of flowers. This folds completely flat as well to go into your envelope, and it is so quick and easy to do. You don't actually need any dies at all for the mechanism, only for the decoration at the front, which I'll explain as we work our way through. So I'm going to be using my Textures Leaves and Florals washi sheets. These are getting really low on stock now. I hope they hold out for those of you who still want to purchase it, so you can. I'm going to be using those. I'm also going to be using an old panel of paper that I've found in my stash, and this came from 49 Market Vintage Artistry Anywhere collection. You can still have a little web search and find those about in a few places, but a lot of the places they did sell out, unfortunately, but they are absolutely beautiful. So I've also got some acetate, actually some quite strong acetate, and I'll explain how I've cut that in a moment, and a card base. Now you can work this mechanism with absolutely any card base that you've already got or whatever you prefer to use. So first things first, let's start with the part of our card that does use dies, but like I say, this bit's completely optional. I'm going to create an aperture inside my card base. So I've cut myself a panel of paper or cardstock here, and that fits absolutely perfectly over the top of my card base. Now I've got two nesting dies here, and I've made sure within my card I'm going to be using this washi sheet. I've already decided that, so that bouquet. So I've made sure that the smallest die is kind of going to be a bit of a spotlight of that. You'll see more in a moment. So it's a peek through to this bouquet of flowers that we'll be able to see. Now with the larger die, I'm going to just cut into the front here, and I'm going to cut that again. Pop your bouquet on the front of your card, whereabouts it will be sort of central, and then pop this where you think you'd like your spotlight, which will be probably around about this sort of height. So I'm going to use a little bit of low tack tape. I'm just going to tack this down and again just centralize that. You can measure this if you prefer, but I always do it by eye. I'm going to cut out the larger circle on my die cutting machine first of all. I'm gently going to release my washi sheet or washi tape, and then I'm going to place this back onto my card base, making sure that that border around the edge is completely even there. I think that's about right. And then I'm going to take the smaller circular die and place that in the middle. So this way I can perfectly line up my two apertures. Take that down, remove this top sheet for now, open the card base up this time, and then die cut that through. Now you should have a perfect mat and layout ready to do our card front in a little while. I'm not going to do that right now. You'll see why in a moment, but I'm going to do that later. I just wanted to have that prepared so we can work on our mechanism in the middle of the card now. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a full bouquet of florals from the washi sheets. Now the washi sheets not only have full bouquets like this, they also have lots of little bits. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've taken 4 stems, I've put them onto white cardstock and I've trimmed them out. I've followed the kind of the line of the outline of the washi tape, so nice, easy, smooth lines, not too much in the way of fussy cutting. So I've got those ready, but they're going to go on in a little while. I'm going to put this large one on first. So this is then going to determine whereabouts our 3D element is going to go. So just carefully peeling the washi sheet from the backing. Be very gentle, just because if there's any fine bits, occasionally the washi can tear. It's usually pretty good. It's die cut absolutely beautifully. Now the beauty of the washi sheets is that you can actually lift them up and move them around if you're not happy with the positioning in the very beginning. So I'm just going to pop that there. I'm not even pressing that down yet, and just make sure I'm happy with what I can see through there. And then I'm going to place that down like so. Okay, so now I've got a really good guideline for where my, I suppose my vase of flowers is going to go. So now we need to actually make the vase. So I've taken myself a piece of acetate. I've already scored some lines in the end. Now the centerpiece here is 3.5 inches long. The depth is entirely up to you. The depth just depends on the florals, the stems you're putting in and things like that. So you can really adjust that to suit your project. I've got a tab on each end as well, so you'll need to add this tab into the measurements. This was around about 1/4 of an inch for me, or say 1/2 centimetre if you work in centimetres. On one side I've put double-sided tape, so I've scored and folded the two ends in. That's going to stick onto my card base, so I've put double-sided tape on this side here. Now what I am also going to do is cut myself a long strip of cardstock, and I think it's quite important that this strip is also quite similar, if not, if you can, the same cardstock as your card base. The more similar it is, the more it's kind of going to camouflage into the design and you're not going to see that mechanism working quite as much. So you want to just, for the moment, just cut that nice and long. I've gone with around about 1/3 of the width or the height of this, and in here I'm going to want to also cut myself a slot. So let's just open this side tab up for a moment, take the width of this, and I'm not going quite central, I'm going to go just a little bit lower than central. I'm going to cut a small gap between this tab that's the right size for this strip of cardstock to sit into. So cut through the tape and the tab and then cut this away. There we go. Now you're going to want to add a little bit of double-sided tape to the end of your strip. And you can work with double-sided tape like this, or you could work with a red liner tape if you prefer, which is a really good strong tape as well. Now with the backing off of there, I'm just going to, oops, don't stick it to there, there we go. I'm going to place my strip in that gap that we just created. I'm going to stick the sticky part onto the underside of the other tab. So hopefully you're all able to continue following along with me at the moment. There we go, stick that on. And if you were to just hold with your two fingers here, hold that down. So bear in mind the backing's not off the tape yet, it's not sticky yet, and pull. This should bow up your acetate. So what you should then have is this sort of shape happening. Okay, so we've got the basic mechanism now for our vase of flowers. Now we can have this either way round. For me, this is going to sit this way, I think. Yeah, that way. So that's going to pull and be arched there. Okay, so now I'd like to just add a few more pieces that's going to kind of hide the mechanism. These are completely optional, but I prefer to do them. So I've got a piece of white cardstock, and again this is matching the card base, so it should be the same tone. And I'm just going to adhere that to the underside of my tab there, so that's inside the tab, and that's just to kind of help conceal the mechanism a little bit so we don't see any tape. If you get a really good strong acetate, I use the Papermania acetate because it is such a good weight. It feels almost the weight of sort of shrink plastic. It's brilliant. If you use that, then that's going to really help to allow you to fold back and fold again without breaking the acetate, so you can maneuver this piece as you're working with it. So I'm going to open up the two flaps on the other side that haven't got the tab stuck to them, and on the inside I'm going to add tape as well. I'm going to put this white cardstock over the tabs there, and I can feed my cardstock through the gap there. That will still fold back, that will glue where we need it to, it will all work absolutely perfectly. So now when I stick my vase down, the acetate down, I won't have any mechanism as such or any tape showing. It should all blend in quite nicely with the card base, or as much as we can. Now I'm going to open this up again because I want to add a little bit of a water effect to here, just to kind of hide a little bit of the workings again even more. So I've got myself a little mix of some alcohol inks that I think are going to work nicely as water. And because I'm working with alcohol ink, which will literally stain anything, I'm going to be placing a blending mat underneath here. So just a little bit of alcohol ink, and this is because it dries on plastic or on the acetate. Most other inks, unless it is a solvent based ink, just won't dry on the plastic, so we'll have all sorts of problems. So I've got a deep dark blue, I've got a green there, and then from Malibu I've got a shimmery one as well, which I'm going to put quite a lot of this on because I think it's really pretty. I'm just going to mix these together just on here, trying to get a little bit of each of the colours. Because I've opened this up as well, this is kind of just showing the reverse of those strips, so it doesn't matter if a little bit of colour does get on them. There, as that dries, there's my kind of water looking. Let's hold it over white for you. You can see it looks a little bit like water. Just enough again to hide those mechanisms a little bit. So that won't take just a few seconds to dry. Now, before I go any further even, and Karen, I want to decorate this before we do the mechanism, because once we do the mechanism, I don't want to be taking it apart to add decoration. I don't want to be fiddling around with it too much. So I'm going to add a slightly wider sheet of double-sided tape to the front, just leaving a little bit of a gap there. I'm going to actually use a craft knife just to very gently trim the tape, because I want to have a nice even or nice straight finish to it. I'm going to do the same just at this end as well, not going through the acetate at all, just the tape there. Burnish that down as best I can just with my finger, and bearing in mind that alcohol ink might be a little bit damp still. It's probably pretty much dry. Then I'm going to take some garden twine, or just some twine, it could be baker's twine, it could be a piece of ribbon if you prefer, and I'm going to place this along here, cut it off at the end. Then I'm going to keep repeating that and build up until that complete sticky layer has been covered. So at this stage you should have your acetate jar as such, along with the sticky tape twine on there as well, your tabs all covered up, and we can soon get to work on that mechanism. The last thing to do is to start thinking about adhering our flowers. Now, I'm not actually going to adhere them right now because I'd like to adhere them in situ, so I know whereabouts exactly they're going to be, what that will look like when I apply them to my card. So what I am going to do just for now instead is just take a piece of double-sided tape and pop that inside there ready, so that when I'm ready I can just take the backing off the tape and stick my flowers to it. I haven't got to worry about trying to add glue under there. Okay, so now to add our mechanism as such. So this is going to go, let's just open this up, keeping this left hand side, and that's the one with the little gap in between the tabs, keeping this exactly where we think we'd like it. If you bend your vase to the sort of depth and height that you think you would like it to be, so I think something like that would look nice. Now I would suggest at this stage do a little pencil line on both edges while it's curved, and then release everything, keeping this edge where it was, and then just do a little pencil line where it flattens out to this side. Okay, so this side will be static, this side will stay still, this side will lift up and down. So you want two marks. So you want where it is when it's curved, fully curved, and where it is when it's flattened down. Now what you want to do is take this measurement. So for me this is 1.5 centimeters. Let's see what that is in inches. Obviously it will depend on the depth of your curve, how far in you're bringing it. So that is just over ½ inch. That's ½ inch plus 2/8 of an inch, something like that. I use both imperial and metric measurements, so apologies if I keep switching between the two and it's confusing, but I can easily use inches or centimeters. That's just how I was brought up, and I just use whichever one is the most accurate. So I can see that is 1.5 centimeters exactly. I will use that measurement rather than try and go with the odd inch size. So what you're going to want to do is to now come over from the spine over this way, and we want to measure half of this measurement. Okay, so that was 1.5 centimetres. So that's going to be 3/4 of a centimetre. So if I place this here, 3/4 of a centimetre will be about there. Okay, so this measurement here between the spine and this line is half of this distance. Okay, hopefully that's okay and that's understandable. We can now just remove these lines, and all we need really is the line where your vase is going to start, the static line, and the last one you just made. So now placing your vase on this line, completely flat down, make sure it's straight. You now need to just mark whereabouts your tab comes to. So that will be just there. Okay, now I'm going to take a craft knife and I'm going to pop a self-healing mat under there, and I'm going to cut this along this line, going a little bit further up and a little bit further down by only a few millimeters along that line. And now I'm going to erase all of those pencil marks. There we go. Okay, so everything can hopefully be put together. So what we're going to do is feed our bar through that gap, if you haven't done already. We can now remove our double-sided tape from the 2 tabs on the left hand side, and we want to place this down. Don't forget that little line you made, that's where you want your vase to start, making sure that your tab is through this gap. So just wiggle that through and place your vase on there. There we go. Okay, that's stuck on there. Now what you want to do is push your strip through and close your card up. Okay, push it all the way through. That should be completely flat inside, and this tab you want to bring over in front, not towards the spine, over in front of the design. And again, we're going to tape this here. We're going to make sure that's not going to move anywhere. Now to check the magic. Okay, we're not adhering this right hand side down at all, but when you open your card, that should now open up into a curve. Now at this point you can give this a bit of a squeeze to create a crease line, but that will all fold down flat, completely flat, and when you open it, there we go, it's all curved again. Beautiful. Okay, let's work with the inside while that's curved. Once you flatten that open, it will stay like so, which is just wonderful. I'm going to get my tweezers and I'm going to just remove this backing tape that we put in here, and now I'm going to start positioning the florals that I cut out earlier. So I'm going to put one, and these will need a little, be able to bend, so a little bit of flexibility. I'll put one around about there, but I'm not going to fully stick that one yet. I think there's going to be another one go over the top actually. I think I might put this one over the top, so I'll just play around with positioning of everything. 1, 2, one on the edge here, and then this one is so beautiful. I think it's going to go, I might have to sit in here like so. There we go. You can now close your card and flatten everything down. You should still see your florals inside there. Make sure that's all stuck. Open your card up again and ensure that there's no tape, no glue catching anywhere in there. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, so final bit of decoration, well, final bit of the mechanism, I guess. We're hiding the mechanism now, and that's what this front cover was for. So I'm going to adhere this down just on the front here. I might add a little bit of some darker ink around the edges of this first, and then we'll look to put a sentiment Absolutely love that. I think that's such a fun and easy way to create a wow factor card. If you enjoy this, please do make sure you subscribe to my channel, and maybe you'll like this video from me just here as well. Take care, everybody. I'll see you again very soon.